Today, the mirror is no longer special. Many devices such as televisions, modern cameras, telescopes and so on contain mirrors. In every store we visit and in our homes, there are plenty of mirrors to be found, more than you might think. But what exactly is a mirror? If you look closely, you can see two reflections in the mirror. It's easiest to see in the dark, holding a candle in your hand. Because most mirrors are made of a glass plate and a thin, extremely smooth layer of aluminum behind the glass plate. We owe the actual reflection to the aluminum layer. The glass plate is used because it is transparent. That means it lets light pass through well and only protects the aluminum. Because you can also see yourself in a window, but the image isn't as sharp. But what exactly happens with a mirror? Why doesn't this object simply have its own radiance, but instead shows what's in front of it? The mirror reflects the light that hits it. You have to imagine the whole thing like this. When light, for example, comes out of a lamp and hits an object, these light particles take on the properties of color, shape, location, and so on, and then continue flying somewhere else. Because they also hit our eyes, we are able to see the object. That's how we humans are able to perceive our surroundings. Imagine light as particles that carry information. The special thing about the mirror is that this information, these images contained in the light, don't just bounce off in any random way. Because the mirror is extremely smooth, reflections are very orderly and parallel, creating an image. That's why the mirror's surface roughness must be less than half the light's wavelength. That's why electromagnetic sound waves, though invisible, can also reflect off suitable surfaces. There are also other objects where you can see yourself. What's important here is how smooth the object is. An object that isn't so smooth reflects the light rays, meaning the information, in all different directions, so we can't see a sharp image, but rather a distorted and blurry one. With a mirror, light rays and information reflect back in parallel, so the image reaches the eye. Even with a mirror, reflection is never 100%, so some information is always lost. There are also other types of mirrors, called concave mirrors. Concave mirrors, whose construction we won't go into, have the property of reproducing distant objects as real images and are therefore used, for example, for reflecting telescopes. There are also split mirrors with special surfaces, often used in clothing stores. That's why you shouldn't be surprised if you look completely different in the mirror at home with the clothes you tried on than you did in the store. One-way mirrors are mirrors where part of the light is reflected and the rest passes through. This way, people in a room behind the mirror can observe the people in front of the mirror. However, he doesn't see those people, but simply his own reflection. How many one-way mirrors have you walked past without knowing they were there? This creates a parallel world effect on the aluminum. In many movies, mirrors serve as gateways to other worlds. But the person we're supposed to be is shown inverted. You might first ask yourself why the mirror swaps left and right, but not top and bottom. If you raise your right hand, your reflection raises its left hand. The explanation, as I said, is that the image is inverted, not swapped left and right, but rather front and back. Using two mirrors for an image prevents any swapping. This is quite interesting. Then everything is the right way around. For example, single lens reflex cameras make use of this fact. The same phenomenon applies to 4, 6, 8, and so on mirrors as well. In general, an even number of mirrors is needed to see yourself as you are perceived by the outside world. There are interesting opinions about this, saying that you look completely different then. Trying it yourself could be an interesting experiment. That might also be the reason why you're usually not satisfied with your own photos, or at least you think you look different in them. Since looking in a mirror, where we see ourselves every day, doesn't actually show reality, many people are afraid of the mirror. This is somehow understandable, because who doesn't know the horror movies where the reflection in the mirror turns into a demon? Is there a reason behind this? In many cultures, the devil lives in the mirror. And if it's actually true that devils or demons really look into our world through the mirror, then there are hardly any places where we are unobserved by them. They say you shouldn't look into the mirror for too long at night, but that's generally problematic. Looking at yourself up close for too long can make you feel strange or even go crazy. Notice that in movies, the medicine cabinet with psychiatric drugs is usually behind a mirror.